Right. So let's get right into it. I think the first thing I want to start off with, and Michael, I'm going to come to you, is California. Rob, we have a lot of clips, okay? We have a lot of clips of what's going on in California. It isn't slowing down. The games are not slowing down. Newsome did eventually come out and apologize. If you want to go on Twitter, Rob, and just go to the apology video that he came out eventually. This is, I think, 5 days later. On day one, I asked him, I said, are you going to come out and do this? This is, I think, yesterday that he came out and said this. Now watch this. We don't have to play the whole thing, just the first 30 seconds. Watch how he's finally wanting to have his people be responsible. Go ahead, Rob.
If you incite violence, I want to be clear about this. If you incite violence or destroy our communities, you're going to be held to account.
Okay.
That kind of criminal behavior will not be tolerated. Full stop. Already more than 220 people have been arrested. And we're reviewing tapes to build additional cases. Sure. And people will be prosecuted.
You can pause it right there. You can pause it right there.
Is he reading a script?
Of course he is. You can pause it right.
That's
Go back
natural.
a little bit, Rob. Go back a little bit where, I'm saying it's 4 days too late. This shows you haven't moved to the center. You want these chaos. You need your next George Floyd, and continue to deflect, spin, and blame. Michael, before we go into all these other clips, there's so many of them. There's a guy that's tatted up and, looks like a tough guy explaining. I don't know if you saw this clip or not. That World Star posted. It's phenomenal. What's amazing about this clip when you post it, there's a sound that happens the first 3 seconds that I'm wondering what he was doing before he played this clip. Go ahead and play this clip, Rob. I don't know if you guys caught the sound. Go ahead.
Get this straight.
What was that? Go back again, Rob.
Double respect. Let me hear.
Listen.
Double respect.
Listen to this.
Let me get this straight.
So,
Honey,
by the way, no,
I
pause
have more
it before
important things to do. Sorry.
She's doing squats.
Go back, Rob. You know what it's like? It's like but you have to. Can you imagine? Right after he's done with his girl, the only thing he was thinking about is the riots. Imagine how focused
he
he
is.
is.
That meme, the meme of like, I hope he's not dreaming about cheating on me. And the guy's just like, why is Gavin Newsome letting these terrorists run?
I don't even think he was done with his lady friend.
Do it one more time here. Do it one more time here. Go for it, Rob.
Get this straight. Just so I could clarify it.
Let me just, okay.
You don't want to go back to Mexico. You're protesting to stay away from Mexico. But you're waving the Mexican flag and you're waving it with pride. You're waving it in the United States, the country you're trying to stay in, the country you don't want to leave. But yet you're waving the Mexican flag with pride. Okay. That seems normal to you? That seems logical? That's not stupid at all? None of that's stupid. All right. You guys are an embarrassment to the Mexican culture and to the United States culture. You guys are an embarrassment to everybody around you, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Do better.
All right, Michael,
Well
your
said.
thoughts on everything that's going on in
Beautiful.
California.
Beautiful. I think it's on a lot of people's minds. Obviously, 200,000 likes for that. And Newsome doesn't know which way to flop. Because he comes out and he says, Trump bringing in the National Guard is a threat to democracy, and this is the authoritarian takeover. So Newsome puts himself firmly on the side of the Mexican flags and the kefias and the ACAB and all the rest of it. Then he realized that's not playing very well. And so he's got to flip and say, no, we're arresting all of these people. Oh, these are people you were just standing with. This is after the Democrats, I don't know if you saw Brian Stelter's tweet. He said that the riots and the arson and the Molotov cocktails were a cry of hope. That's the new fiery but mostly peaceful protest. It's a cry of hope, a song of joy to burn a city down. And so there's actually a reason that Newsome has done this. It's easy to say, oh, what a dummy, he doesn't know what he's doing. That's not fair. Newsome had a strategy. Newsome was a huge lib, and he let his state, at least one of his cities, burn down before all the riots broke out. And he realized, okay, this is bad. I want to be president in 2028, so I'm going to moderate. Trump won the popular vote, so what am I going to do? The best way that I can position myself to win over all those disaffected Dems who went Republican for Trump, who maybe they can come back, I'm going to pretend to be friends with Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon, and I'm going to start a podcast and look like Mr. Moderate. Okay, so he starts to do that, and then the riots force his hand, because when push comes to shove, he can either side with Trump and the Marines and the National Guard and normal people and that Mexican guy without a shirt on, all of whom understand that the rioters are bad, or he can stand with his base. And so he has to stand with his base. So great, now he's getting all the play over Kamala and Buttigieg and Whitmer and all these other people. That's fine, but he's completely unelectable, because what the deportation protest comes down to is mass deportations are a mainstream majority political issue now. Not just the bad guys with the MS-13 tattoos, mass deportations for many of the 11 to 16 million illegal aliens. So then the last thing the Democrats could do to try to salvage a political win here is they could send their protesters out to wave the American flag and not the Mexican flag. And they can't even do that. And they can't do that not just because they're dummies or something. They can't do that because it is part of their ideology and part of their base that they hate America, that America's evil, we need to abolish the colonial, white, imperial, original sin, blah, 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 whatever. So they can't do it. They can wave the rainbow flag, they can wave the terrorist rainbow flag, the one with the triangle and the brown and the black and whatever. They can wave the Mexican flag, but they can't wave the American flag. And so you look at a guy like Newsome, who is a talented politician, and you realize the guy can't move. Any way he moves, he loses.
But here's a question, though. So to me, what is kind of weird on the playbook, the page is taken out of the playbook, is his current play is the play to stay governor of California. It's not the play to become the president. Who is he winning over?
The moderate play or the radical play?
It's a radical play he's taking right now.
They're kind of getting mixed up.
But to get the moderate play is for being a president. The radical play is to stay governor of California. It doesn't make any sense.
But how do you win the primary?
How does he win the primary?
Yeah.
So if you saw, the numbers that came up, I don't know if you saw the surgeons of what happened. He officially in the last 4 days, believe it or not, in the craziest way, went from number 5 or 4 on the list to the number 1 candidate for 2020. Yeah. Did you see the surgeons? It went like boom, like this. Did you see this?
I didn't.
Numbers went like this. Newsome went to number 1 spot because Democrats like the fact that he's fighting and standing up to Trump. So on the Democratic side, they're like, look at this guy. Yeah. He's not afraid of Trump. He's not afraid of the bully. He's standing up. So Democrats, believe it or not, like it. Does that mean he can win? Here's CNN. I want to show this clip here, Rob, if you can, from CNN on what happened with trust on immigration. He looks like he needs to go to the bathroom.
Bro. He can't take
Rob,
this
go ahead and play this clip. So 2020,
every week when he does this. Here he comes.
2020 to 2025, trust more on immigration, the left or right. Go for it.
Start off on the fact that immigrant citizens, immigrant voters, foreign-born voters have gone tremendously to the right on this issue in 2024 and 2025 versus where they were in 2020. Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats.
Only in
more
4 or
so
5
than
years.
any other group that I could find. The group of voters who became more hawkish on immigration were in fact immigrants themselves, immigrants who are registered to vote in this country.
That is wild.
How about how they feel about kind of traditionally, historically, about Donald Trump?
Yeah, so, you see this shift and you go, what is going on underneath the hood? Well, take a look, Donald Trump. You remember when he first ran back in 2016, immigrant voters were one of his weakest spots. But look at this, Trump's vote share in presidential election among, again, immigrant citizens, those who are registered to vote. Look at this. In 2016, he got 36% of the vote. You go to 2020, 39% of the vote. Look at this, in 2024, all the way up to 47% of the vote. Some polls I looked at had him barely losing that vote. Some polls I looked at had him barely winning that vote. Again, there is no block of voters that shifted more to the right from 2020 to 2024 than immigrant voters, and Donald Trump, at least in some surveys, actually won that vote. On average, it's about equal. So there may be all this stuff right about...
Tom, why do you think that is? Why do you think, Newsome is doing what he's doing? He's taking a position of staying as the governor, but the Democrats are excited about him fighting against Trump. Yet at the same time, immigrants are siding with Trump on what he's doing on immigration. The Democratic side is not looking good. The votes are going more on the Republican side on how they trust who to handle this. Why do you think this is taking place?
I have 3 quick thoughts on this. And number one, I got 2 more Minex just last night from people that said, thank you for speaking up for the Latino community. I am in Ventura, California, and the illegal aliens come into our communities because that's the place where they try to find housing and to hide. They're not going to hide in Newport Beach. You see? Yeah. So they're coming into our communities. We don't want the criminal element. We don't want the ones that are bad. We are sympathetic for the people that are trying to flee the cartels. But now it creates the same thing here. So number one, the immigrants that are here are assimilating and they are appreciating the American opportunity. That's a fact, and that's what's showing up in the polls. The second point says they don't want the violence either, and they don't want it to reflect on themselves. So they're as concerned as a regular citizen is, and they're polling like regular citizens on the issue of immigration. And lastly, there's one more thing I'd ask what Michael said, and I think he's absolutely correct. Remember, the DNC, inside the DNC, they eat their young. You remember what they did in South Carolina to Bernie going back elections ago. Yeah. J.B. Pritzker is their guy. J.B. Pritzker is being kept insulated right now. And guess what? I believe that Gavin Newsome doesn't know that the DNC is using him as a veritable suicide bomber in this. He thinks he's out there because he has no space on the chessboard to move except to the base. I agree with you 100%. He was trying to be Mr. Moderate. He was being chill. He was wearing different clothing. All this things going on. But all of a sudden he's like, oh, crap. I can't stay on that square, otherwise I'll get killed over here. So he has to go back to the base. He doesn't want to be here. And then he and Karen Bass, within 36 hours, suddenly gave Republican stump speeches on violence in the streets. And it's like, wait, what just happened? They even had to run away from their base because they saw the polls coming out exactly what Harry Enton was talking about. Those are my thoughts.
Here's what, by the way, Newsome said about Trump. Rob, if you want to go to the Newsome clip, here's Newsome on Trump with what's going on in California. Go for it.
Failed dictators have done in the past. Look, this isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles. When Donald Trump sought blanket authority to commandeer the National Guard, he made that order apply to every state in this nation. This is about all of us. This is about you. California may be first, but it clearly will not end here. Other states are next. Democracy is next. Democracy is under assault before our eyes. This moment,
give him credit. He is such a good snake in the grass.
He's taking a wrecking ball to our founding fathers' historic project. 3 co-equal branches of independent government. There are no longer any checks and balances. Congress is nowhere to be found. Speaker Johnson has completely abdicated that responsibility. The rule of law has increasingly been given way to the rule of Don.
You can pause it right here. By the way, he said the president didn't call him. I believe somebody from the president's camp showed the 2 clips of getting calls. I don't know if it's validated or not. It shows they spoke on 7th or something like that at 1:20 in the morning. You know, and people are coming back saying, well, that call never happened. This is President Trump saying that he called Gavin Newsome 1:23 in the morning. Was this fact check, Rock, by other people in Grob? Michael, did you see anything on fact checking with this one, or
I didn't, and I refuse to believe that Gavin Newsome would lie about something like this.
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. I think that's a very good, because as a noble man, he would never do such a thing.
I mean, the only thing, the question though, Pat, he saved it as Newsome. If it was really Trump, he would have put New Scum.
You think so?
That's a good point.
I think so.
That's a good point.
Personally.
But remember what Newsome said, Adam. I'm coming to you right after this.
Sure.
Rob, if you can go to that article, very interesting what he said. You have to listen to a couple of the words on what he said there. He said, this is not going to be California first. It's coming to you.
Right.
How does he know? How does he know? Axios, who's not a conservative platform, far from it, they said anti-Trump No Kings protests set for Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. If you go a little bit lower, these are the places it's coming to. This is their plan that they've put together. Go a little bit lower.
Bring it on. Bring it on, baby.
And it's talking about how this is the one that came out 3 hours ago. I want to see the one, Rob, that says how many cities it's going to and who's funding it. It's there to go right there to the bottom. Millions of people are estimated to protest in more than 1,500 cities across 50 states. The whole thing is called the No Kings. And by the way, you know who's one of the people that's funding this? If you go on ChatGPT, Rob, and ask who is funding the No Kings protest, who is funding the No Kings protest, that is taking place. If you go to this one, it tells you Christy Walton is one of the names. Christy Walton is one of the Waltons. She's, I think, the poorest one because I think she's only worth 19 or 20 billion dollars.
What a loser.
Yeah. Okay. And you know, to coincide with Trump's birthday plan, a military prayer, primary promoting the Waltonaires. She funded full-page paid advertisement in New York Times and regional papers, encouraging Americans to reject authoritarianism and engage in civic protest. The protests themselves are organized by the 50-51 movement alongside with over 100 civil liberties and pro-democracy groups. Some online chatter are saying, speculated that Walmart or billionaire George Soros were bankrolling it. There's a lot of speculation here of what's going on, but the reality of it is, Newsome didn't just say they're coming to a city near you because he's a predictor. No. They've been on conference calls.
Right.
This is a plan.
Now, does the Waltons lady not understand that when these peaceful cries of joy come to cities all around the country, that Walmarts are going to be looted as well?
Yeah, good.
Is she not concerned about that?
Yeah.
What do you think? Which Walton is this, though?
This is
Christy
Walton.
Is